Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's virtual conference. My name is Nehal Khosla and I'm your host for today. Dun & Bradstreet, in association with Elastic and NSEIT, are glad to present this virtual conference on the pertinent topic, using analytics to optimize operations for BFSI. Before we begin, I request everyone to please take a moment and go through the guidelines that are going to be displayed on your screens right now. We encourage you to ask more questions in this session, and we request you to please mention your questions in the Q&A section that is given at the bottom of your screens. These will be taken up in the Q&A session that is scheduled after the panel discussion. You can also use the chat box for sharing your views with us. A couple of tips here. We want to know you more. Hence, we request you to please mention your name and your company name when you post a question. You can also mention the person to whom you're directing your question to. As you can see on your screens, a sample Q&A box and chat box appears. Yes, this is how they'll appear when you click on the respective icons. I request you all to please both these icons in this entire webinar to converse better with the speakers and the moderator of the session today. Well, this session is not only about discussions. You also have a chance to win exciting Zozo Day e-vouchers by participating in an engaging quiz that we have lined up for you. All you have to do is to be eligible to get these vouchers is earn minimum of 50 cloud miles. Yes, that is what you need to earn. And that is doable by following the activities that are listed on your screens. First, taking the quiz will give you certain cloud miles, as you see on your screens. Next is asking relevant questions, and sharing your views in the comment section will also give you certain cloud miles. But that is not it. Taking part in the poll is mandatory. So please do watch out for the 2 polls that are coming up shortly. Now let's take a quick look at the flow of today's session. Please refer the agenda that is displayed on your screens right now. Our speakers for the day are Mr. Ravindra Ramnani, Mr. Arpan Majumdar, Mr. Vivek Sharma, Mr. Vipin Jain, Mr. Shashwat Kumar, Dr. Suresh Chan, Mr. Dilip Majhi, Mr. Lawrence Crowther, and Mr. Satish Kashyap. A promising agenda with an eminent lineup of speakers, isn't it? Well, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and thank everyone for being a part of this virtual session today. With this, let's kickstart with the opening speaker of the day. I would like to invite Mr. Ravindra Ramnani, who's the Senior Solutions Architect at Elastic, and that's a brief intro about him. Over to you, and a very warm welcome to you, Mr. Ramnani.
Thank you, Neil.
Most welcome. We've given you the presentation rights.
Yes, I've just shared my screen. Let me know if you're able to see the screen.
It's visible.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Neil, for the introduction and for hosting this webinar as well. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for attending this webinar. We have a very eminent guest today who would be sharing their views on observability during the panel. But I'll quickly start with what exactly is observability. It's becoming a very popular term these days. It's a newly coined term. Last few years, it has been coined. And I'll also share a perspective, Elastic, that is the company behind the ELK stack, a perspective behind observability. Observability, you can say, it's a unified visibility of your complete infrastructure. It's a modern way to look at monitoring your end-to-end infrastructure, be it logs, be it your APM, be it your monitoring, be it your uptime. And what I'll do is I'll first give an intro to our company, and then I'll go deep on what exactly is observability and how we solve that problem. To give an intro, Elastic is a search company. We are a publicly listed company, listed on New York Stock Exchange in 2018. We are a 10-year-old company with employees across 40 different countries across the globe. More than 2,000 employees across 40 different countries. We are the makers of ELK stack. I'm very sure you must be using ELK, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana in your environment. There must be a cluster running. It's a very widely popular platform for log analytics, for search, for monitoring, and we are the company behind this open source platform. The key differentiator of the whole platform, why it is popular, is the speed, scale, and relevance that the platform provides. You can ingest as much data as you want. We have customers ingesting petabytes of data, customers creating security data lake or machine data lake on top of Elastic, and getting real-time analytics on top of that data, and finding relevant results out of that data. Uh, that's the power of the whole Elastic stack, and that's why it's very, very popular. It has more than 1 billion downloads, enterprise downloads across the globe. And we have more than 11,000 paying customers across the globe as well. So it's a very, very widely popular solution or a stack. Uh, there are multiple solutions for which the whole stack is used for. The stack, as I said earlier, it's popularly known as the ELK stack, Elasticsearch Logstash Kibana, but we like to call it as Elastic Stack, and that's what I'll refer it going forward in the session as well. Uh, so it's the platform behind multiple solutions. What we have done is we have created buckets of 3 buckets of solutions that we offer to our customers. The first is enterprise search. Elasticsearch is the #1 search engine globally. Be it if you book a ride via Uber, or if you search for a document on Wikipedia, or if you search for a date on Tinder, the search is powered by Elasticsearch, and that's where we have shipped turnkey solutions in the search domain, be it building a search bar on your static website, be it creating an e-commerce like search experience for your end customers, or even creating a workplace search experience for your employees. We have turnkey solutions available which fall under the enterprise search bucket that we have. Then we have observability that we are going to cover today. Um, it consists of log analytics, monitoring, APM, and uptime solutions that we bundle for end customers. And then we have security. We offer a full-fledged SIEM, that is Security Information Event Management solution, along with a very powerful endpoint security product, which includes EPP and EDR, all powered by the same stack: Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, Beats. Uh, the core of the entire stack is open source, but we have certain additional solutions that we have built for end customers, and they have a premium model. You can deploy the stack. It's anywhere you like. You can download it and deploy it in any network, be it bare metal servers or containers or virtual machines. It's cloud ready. It's cloud native. We have a full-fledged SaaS offering as well. In fact, we recently launched a region in AWS Mumbai. We have GCP Mumbai as well. So we have presence in Mumbai with uh, VPC private link for AWS as well. So if you're looking at a SaaS service, we have a full-fledged SaaS service available on AWS and GCP Mumbai. Plus, for complex use cases, if you want to deploy Elastic Stack in Kubernetes, we have Elastic Cloud for Kubernetes, which is a Kubernetes operator. You also have, for more complex use cases, or if you want to build a center of excellence around Elastic Stack, we have Elastic Cloud Enterprise, which helps you manage your complex Elastic Stack workloads as well. So we have 3 major solutions: search, observability, and security, built on the same Elastic Stack, which you can deploy anywhere you want. Now I'll go deep on observability. Uh, what is observability? As I said, it's a unified way of looking at end-to-end infrastructure. Uh, People used to typically have monitoring tools. They already have multiple monitoring tools, which do very limited things. Say you have a network monitoring solution, you have APM for your core banking, you have APM for your front-end internet and mobile banking. Then you have log analytics solution, or your team is just has to uh, SSH into your production servers to search through logs. With so many APIs coming in, you have to invest in uptime solution as well. So there is a huge number of tools that everyone is investing in. And there is a big area that has come up where you want to consolidate tools. You want a single view on what's happening. I was apparently talking to a CISO of a large public sector bank. This was around a year back, and the bank had launched a new mobile app. Uh, they were pretty happy. The mobile app was pretty good. But after the launch, around 25-30% of the customers were not able to log into the new app. And when they tried debugging it, the mobile banking mobile app team said, "Oh, everything is working fine at their end. The network team said everything is working fine at their end. The database team said everything is working fine at their end. Everyone said, yeah, there's no problem at our end. After 15 days, they figured out that there was an issue with one of the switches that was uh, losing some packets, and that's why around 25% of the customers were not able to log in. Now, in a modern world, post-COVID world, uh, people can't visit branches. They have to have access to your channels via your digital channels, be it mobile, be it internet. And if your digital channels are down for 15 days, that's a big uh, blow to your customers, right? It's not a good customer experience. Your customers may want to move to another competitor of yours. And the problem with that bank was they had so many different systems, and each system had its own monitoring solution. They didn't have a single view of what exactly is happening in their infrastructure, what is happening with transactions, what is happening with customer logins. They had no clue. So they felt that there is a need for a consolidated view of entire infrastructure, entire IT ecosystem, and that's what observability is. Uh, that was a traditional environment, but now we are moving towards more complex environment. I'm very sure uh, your organization would be looking at moving to Kubernetes, moving to microservices, moving to serverless, moving to cloud native application, or even uh, being dependent on third-party SaaS services as well. Now, with these kind of architectures, the observability or getting a overview of entire IT ecosystem becomes even more and more uh, challenging and also critical as well. You may have to, if your customer complains they are not able to log in or they are not able to do a transaction, your team may have to log into multiple systems to figure out what the issue is. I was in fact trying to create an account with a modern bank, and for 3 days they were not able to figure out what the issue was. So I stopped the process. I went with another bank. Why should I waste my time with a bank which is not able to figure out why uh, I'm not able to create an account? I'm bringing business to them and they're not able to help me out. The problem is every organization has multiple tools to monitor, multiple ways to monitor. There's no single view. There are disparate teams working in silos to figure out what's happening in the IT ecosystem. In fact, there was a study a few years back. I think it may get even worse now. 65% of the organization have 10 plus monitoring tools. I'll frankly ask all of you to introspect and check internally how many monitoring tools are you actually using these days, and is it really effective? If something fails, uh, are you able to quickly figure out what the issue is? And if not, that's where you need an observability solution for your IT ecosystem. The key challenges of observability are obviously tool sprawl. Uh, that's too many tools trying to monitor too many different things. Uh, but it's not new. You had different tools available to monitor your core banking, your databases, your network devices, and everything. But modern infrastructure is becoming more and more complex. Are your legacy tools able to monitor your Kubernetes payload? Are your legacy tools able to monitor your SaaS applications or cloud native applications? Well, very high chances they are not able to. So it's becoming a bigger challenge these days. Will you invest in more tools? Uh, Also, technology is exploding. There's so many new vendors coming in the monitoring space. Now, they might be an expert in a particular set of use cases, say monitoring Kubernetes or monitoring cloud native applications. But technology is changing so rapidly. Are you sure your new vendor would be able to catch up to all the new technology that is coming in, whether a new way of API management or a new way of deploying your payloads? Will your new tool be able to handle that? Uh, you're not sure because you don't know how they have created their solution. That's another advantage we have. We have an open source solution, so you know how Elastic Stack works. It's there in the open domain. There's a huge community that keeps on building new and new plugins on top of Elastic Stack as well, and it gives us an added advantage as well. Plus, the traditional legacy tools, they have traditional pricing models as well. Could be the number of transactions you want to monitor, could be the number of servers you want to monitor, or could be the number of devices you want to monitor. Now, in a modern cloud native world where you are spinning up new containers based on your loads, you can't actually afford these kind of pricing models, because you need a modern pricing model which uh, charges you based on usage, not based on rigid traditional ways of uh, licensing and pricing. So that's another problem that usually most tools have. Uh, Elastic observability, obviously, we solve most of these problems that I mentioned, but the main aim of a solution is drive MTTR, that is mean time to respond. If there is an issue reported, the mean time to respond or mean time to resolve that issue should be as close to zero as possible. And that is possible by getting the end-to-end visibility of your entire ecosystem into a single solution. You don't have to rely on 10 different teams to figure out why HNI customers transaction is failing, or why some customers are not able to log in. You should be able to rely on a single stack, single solution to get you the uh, end-to-end visibility, and obviously should not be breaking the bank for you. It should not be cost prohibitive for you. So that's the whole principle behind our observability solution. It's a differentiated modern technology built from scratch, open source, distributed by design. It's open. You can anytime go and look into a code, reuse it as you want on the open source components. Adopt any of the community components as well. Uh, Pretty flexible. It can be integrated with anything. It's not rigid on how you want to use it. Plus, the pricing is also modern in the sense it is built for cloud native uh, microservices kind of architecture, where you don't have to break the bank for uh, monitoring modern payloads as well. So that's the reason for you to uh, look at a differentiated solution from Elastic. Uh, what we do, we eliminate silos. Typical solution, you have multiple tools available, multiple teams monitoring those tools. What we offer is a single platform for all your needs, be it your logs, metrics, APM, uptime, and even business data as well. In fact, we are very popular as a business analytics platform as well. So you can correlate your business KPIs with your monitoring data as well. Whether slowness in your environment is causing loss in business, are you able to figure that out right now? I'm very sure no. But if you have all that data in a single platform, you can easily correlate your business KPIs with your IT monitoring and IT SLIs and SLAs as well. So that's a approach to observability, single platform for all your data needs. Uh, what it entails is a unified platform. You don't have to invest in multiple tools. There is unified alerting, dashboarding, unified view of all your data. Also, we have a very powerful machine learning built in, which can uh, do unsupervised anomaly detection across all your data sets by correlating different types of data coming in from different services and applications, plus a single pricing model. You don't have to invest in multiple tools, single way to charge, single way to predict what would be your TCO. And also, obviously, for your operations team, you don't have to train your operations team in multiple tools. You don't have to hire multiple operations team. It would be a single tool for all your operational needs. Uh, this is an example of how you can get a single dashboard for different kinds of operations, be it your uh, uh, logs, be it monitoring, be it APM, all at a single place. Now, that's an overview of what we offer in the observability. Uh, I'll hand it over to Arpan, who will discuss about NSEIT, who is a partner, who is a preferred partner in India and helps our BFSI customers. Uh, that's it on the overview of Elastic. I'll be monitoring the Q&A section at WebEx on WebEx. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them, or we'll ask some of the panel members to answer your questions. So uh, I'll stop sharing now and over back to you, Nehal, so that you can give access to Arpan.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramnani. Before we give access to Arpan, we have a quiz lined up for everybody. So we just have the quiz coming up right now, and you will see the instructions shortly on your screens. So we'll be running the quiz on menti.com, and the login code with the link will be posted in the chat boxes for all of you to log into it. As you can see the chat boxes, the link of menti.com along with the login code has been posted in your chat boxes. I would request all of you to please click on the link that you see in your chat boxes and use the login code that you can see on your screens and in your chat boxes. The login code is 9653382. Alternately, you can also go to a separate browser. All our speakers and all our delegates, I would request you all to please go to a separate browser and type menti.com. Once you type menti.com, it will prompt you for a login code. You'll have to enter the login code that is displayed on your screens. That is 9653382. Once you log into the login code, you will have to enter your official email ID that you have used to log in for today's session. It will help us identify you and allocate the cloud miles correctly. So I'll give you a minute to quickly log into menti.com. I see a lot of you have already joined in. Quickly, last 30 seconds that I'll give you, because once we start the quiz, you will not be able to log in. Quickly log into menti.com, which is in your chat boxes. The link to it is in your chat boxes, and also you can, alternately go to a separate browser, type menti.com, log in with the login code, which is given on top of your screens. That is 9653382. Once you log in with the login code, you will have to enter your official email address. Please use the official email address that you have used to log in for today's session. It will help us identify you and allocate the cloud miles correctly. I'll give you 30 seconds to log in quickly, and then we'll start the session. Once we start, we will not be able to, you will not be able to join in the session. So please, in the next 30 seconds, I would request everyone who's not yet joined in to please quickly join in. Once we start the quiz, each question will have 25 seconds and 4 options for you to choose from. The key is to answer fast and answer right to be on top of the scoreboard. Great. We shall start the quiz now. We see a lot of you have joined in, so we'll start the quiz now. Please see the screens of menti.com in your browser. The questions will come up there. And the first question for you is just coming up. A system is said to be dash if every state can be completely identified by measurements of the outputs at an infinite time interval. 18 seconds, 4 options to choose from. And let's see the right answer. The right one is option B, observable. A lot of you got that right. Great start, everyone. Let's move on to the next question now. Next question on your screens. Which of these is not a cloud service? 4 options on your screen. Look at your browser. 22 seconds to go. Wait. Let's see the right answer now. And the answer is option A. Wow, majority of you got that right. That's a game changer question. Next question on your screens. Remember, answer fast and answer right. The three pillars of observability are dash. In fact, we just had a discussion some time back on this. The session just went by, mentioned this, and I hope a lot of you get that one right. The correct answer is option C. That happens to be a game changer question. Let's move on to the next question now, the fourth one coming up on your screens. Which is the most potential area of concern with customers in cloud technology? 4 options, 23 seconds to go. And the right option is option B, that is security. With a few of you got that one right. Okay, let's see the last question coming up on your screens now. Remember, answer fast and answer right. ADTD refers to dash. 4 options on your screen, 22 seconds to go. And let's see the right answer and how many of you option C happens to be the right answer. I see a few of you got that one right. Never mind. We have questions and comment section also. Let's see the scoreboard now. Okay, Magical Rhino happens to be on top. Congratulations, followed by Venture Thomas. Congratulations to the top scorers for the quiz. Remember to earn more cloud miles. You'll have to ask questions. So keep asking questions. Keep sharing your views and comments in the comments section related to the topic. You'll get to earn more cloud miles. And of course, mandatory polls coming up shortly as well. Congratulations once again. What a vibrant set of audience we have here. Thank you so much. We now have our next thought leader presenting his perspective. I would like to invite Mr. Arpan Majumdar, who's the Global Head Sales at NSEIT, to share his views with us. Welcome, Mr. Majumdar. Sir, can I request you to please unmute yourself? Yes. We're able to see your screen. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I'm just trying to share my screen. Screen's visible, right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
You can see the presentation.
Okay, so thank you, Nehal. Very good evening to everybody. I think the audience as well as the panel that we have here, if you look at the mix, and that's something which I thought is of relevance because the subject we are discussing is of equal criticality to an end customer, be it a bank, be it an insurance company. We have participants from health, general insurance. We have participants from NBFCs. Obviously, we have a platform vendor and us as the technology consulting company helping customers adopt this platform. So I'm sure you got a few insights from the fantastic session that Ravi started with, because I think that's the base of what we are trying to achieve today. And as we move forward, what I'll try to cover in the next 15 to 16 minutes is having understood the relevance of the Elastic platform. Let us ask ourselves a few practical questions in terms of why is it so relevant for us today? How are enterprises adopting it? Why are they going for such a platform? And at the end of the day, what is the kind of ROI or benefit you're getting out of it? So what I will do is I will just briefly introduce NSEIT and then walk you through some of the observations which we've had dealing with multiple customers, doing live implementations, living through challenges, and overcoming with solutions. Because I think that's the problem a lot of the people in the esteemed audience would like to solve. So just give me a second. I'm having a problem with shifting the screen. Yeah. So see, going back to, I think, contextually, if you recollect what Ravi started with, if you look at the users of the Elastic Stack, right, the likes of Uber, the likes of Wikipedia, for that matter, being in India, I think with IPL season on, I think Dream 11 will ring a bell, right? Now, these are all platform-based businesses who run their business on two pieces. One is dealing with an enormous value or volume of big data, and speed is of essence. But these are the two pieces I think are beautifully brought in through the Elastic platform in delivering insights, be it on the operation side, be it on the business side. And that's the entire platform play Elastic, I think, has revolutionized. And that's why all these top platform-based vendors in our platform-driven economy today, all of you are using Uber, I'm sure. That's the core, I would say, backbone of these businesses. So before I deep dive into how and why this is happening, just a quick perspective of NSEIT. So NSEIT, we are 100% subsidiary of the National Stock Exchange of India. And from a very, I would say, from the time we are born, the two factors which have been very critical of any kind of IT work which we've done has been, it has to be something which has to be very high performing. It has to be something which is very secure, and it has to be scalable. Now, if you take these three components, and obviously the IT industry, as you know, has revolutionized significantly more so in the last, I would say, 5 to 6 years, these three pieces have been consistent. And we as an organization have continued to strive and deliver and change ourselves to ensure those three pieces are met with clients that we work with. So we've been around for about 20 odd years, worked with over 150 odd customers, roughly about 2,000 odd people. We acquired a cybersecurity company of about 500 people beyond the 1,600 digital people we have. But why we work so closely with Elastic, and as Ravi mentioned, we've had a very strong and thankfully successful relationship so far, is there are two pieces we define us with. One is we are extremely focused, and we continue to stay focused over the last 20 years in the BFSI sector, because that's in our DNA, and I think that's a sector which requires, irrespective of the kind of digital implementation you're doing, the domain becomes very, very key. And second is, I think we are extremely nimble and agile in terms of not only flexibility, but also in terms of how do we adapt new technology, because there are too many technologies coming in, and some of you are from the end customer side. I'm sure you'll be bogged down with vendor calls and new technologies. And how do you ensure that you have the best fit for your organization? So that's the way we define ourselves. We are a stable, mature company which brings in the flexibility of a startup in helping you adapt new age technology for your digital transformation initiatives. With that background, looking at today's session, like when we are talking of operation and analytics, what do we exactly mean by that? So observability is definitely a part of how do you leverage data science and enable efficiencies in your operational excellence, leveraging big data sets, right? If you look at the current trends which Gartner has suggested, which are the top trends, the two most important pieces are how do you make yourself smarter, faster, and more responsible, And that deals with streamlining huge data infrastructures across your landscape. The second piece is obviously the application of AI ML data science in trying to optimize these monitoring pieces that we are working around. Now, all these may sound really good, and obviously these are very visionary. And I think what we want to spend time on and what NSEIT has been trying to do is, how do I convert this vision to value? So finally, somebody has to do that work on the ground. A platform or a technology might be great. Somebody needs to leverage it to its best ability to overcome specific customer challenges and solve a business problem. So that's where we look at operation and analytics excellence, and that is where Elastic comes into play. So if you look into the core of the problem, it's nice to hear these words, and I think digital transformation, analytics, every IT vendor is talking about it. And more often than not, I come across customers who say, hey, this is kind of becoming more of a marketing jargon, or to an extent, to a great extent, loosely used in common scenarios. So when we look at how to leverage this kind of a platform for solving your problems, the biggest problem is big data. So I think it tunes into some of the pieces which Ravi mentioned, that, see, the bigger challenge is, I think he gave some data point around 65% of organizations having more than 10 plus monitoring tools. Now, the challenge is you're monitoring all of this in silos, and with the landscape changing right from the erstwhile legacy to today a cloud-based environment, or even the cloud-native environments, your landscape and infrastructure is becoming more and more complex. So the more vast it becomes, the ability to monitor also gets even more difficult. And in that case, if you are monitoring in silos, if you're leveraging various separate tools to possibly log in your metrics, events, etc., what are you ending up with? So that's where I think what you get in return are very sliced views of your infrastructure. You get very fragmented data pools of the various structured and unstructured data that is coming in. And last but not the least, especially in the Indian context, because we are dealing with so many customers in the BFSI space, all said and done, cost is a big thing. So tools you have, you pay more licenses, your support costs increase, because with variety of tools, you end up needing people with different skills in your ecosystem to be able to support those implementations. And data governance becomes a huge, huge challenge. So how do you solve this big data problem that you're dealing with when you're looking at infrastructure monitoring or APM in this big data kind of a landscape? So that's where I think what becomes extremely critical is having an integrated monitoring platform. And that's been I think the birth of a platform by Elastic, and the very reason that in a short span of time, they've become a very preferred technology platform to be used for use cases across the ecosystem. So when you're trying to solve those problems of isolation, data governance, costs, the only way you can solve it is how do you ingest all of that into a single platform? How do you kind of create a centralized store? It could be irrespective of various things, right? This could be a mix of your log data, metrics data, APM data, also kind of role that you may have in your organization will define what you want to see. So for an operations person, possibly you want to monitor, are the resources being well optimized in the containerization that I have put in place? For the CXO, do I have a single view of everything that I have in my entire infrastructure landscape? For a developer, the challenge is something else. He'll try to possibly look at, I have multiple texts. So would this platform be able to support monitoring across the various tech stacks which I have, which could be a mix of Java, open source, .NET, whatever? Can I monitor the response times of these applications? So to solve all these things, it's imperative to have a single platform for integrated monitoring, what we have seen with customers, and B is selection of a platform which is capable of supporting all of this so that you can leverage it for integrated monitoring. So that's where we, as a part of our due diligence, we have a COE which does R&D on, because we are an SI, right? We have to give the best fit solution for our end customer. So we do have the options of working with various platforms, and there we did our due diligence. We did our initial, I think everybody also has those initial toothing problems when you're doing your first couple of projects. But over time, I think we've really significantly progressed with working on Elastic over the last 18 to 24 months. And that's primarily because we felt that this solves the problems that we are trying to cater to. So in summary, if you look at what are the 7 or 8 factors that and I'm telling you because you have your options, it's a wide market, and that's where possibly Elastic fits in the scheme of things. You need to have a platform which takes care of this entire piece, right from root cause analysis to unified visibility, continuous operational insight. And that's where I wouldn't deep dive on each of these points, but I think one piece which is very critical is also, do you have this one platform being capable to monitor the correlation between what is happening on the infrastructure side as well as the application side, with the cloud becoming so critical. And I think Ravi deep dived on some of those parts. So that's one of the reasons all our customers have chosen to go with Elastic. And I will run you through a few of the case studies going forward. I won't deep dive into this is possibly covered by Ravi in greater detail, but that's where right from log data, metrics data, APM data, uptime data, all of it can be monitored with one single platform, and that is the Elastic platform, right? Now, when you're looking, so finally, having implemented that, what do you get? And I think some lovely dashboards Ravi showed. This is one of the dashboards, obviously, with mask data we did for one of the large exchanges that we work with. You get one single view across the entire ecosystem, across locations, applications, various kinds of metrics, traces, and most importantly, it should be able to support scale, because be it the big data environment or the speed that we have got very used to or spoiled with because of the likes of, say, a Google search for that example, Elasticsearch is one step above. And customers are not wanting to wait for response time. They feel everything has to be instant. And when I say customer, it could be your end customer or your internal customers. And the way you can solve it is leveraging something as powerful as Elasticsearch. So that is primarily, I think, the customer or industry perspective which we had. I'll take another 5 minutes to touch upon what we have been doing as NSEIT, leveraging the Elastic Stack platform in terms of problem solving. Now, as much as the platform is important, I think you can have a Ferrari, but you need a driver who knows the nuts and bolts to be able to drive a Ferrari. So we have invested deeply in building a center of excellence. And what I mean by a center of excellence is a combination of things. We've invested in people who have built that capability. We've invested in pilots and projects before we did live implementations on building that capability, walking through the challenges, facing the obstacles and finding solution to the obstacles. So today, as we speak, we have a team of more than 50 odd Elastic professionals, technical professionals, right from architects to developers, because you need all of that. All said and done, I think we've maintained our focus on the industry, which is our set of customers. Some of those symbolic sample logos you can see on the screen. It's a mix of banks, exchange, and other organizations, but primarily BFSI focused. So the couple of things I think it's very important if and when you choose to invest on Elastic, I think what our customers say in terms of where they have got ROI, you need to keep in mind that when we are talking of Elastic, it is not a product, we are talking of a platform. And today, why is a platform important? Because it grows with you. It grows with your maturity in the value chain, be it in terms of observability, be it in terms of the analytics value chain. The platform should be able to adapt and scale with relevance and at speed. And that is where I think you can, if you are kind of trying your hands of it. You can start slow and you can easily add more and more nodes, and you can grow very quickly based on your specific requirements. So that's where I think it becomes extremely critical to move forward. I'll move through a couple of case studies. Just give me 1 sec. I think the battery is getting a little low. Give me 1 sec. I'll just, sorry for this. I just need to put it on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry for this nuances of technology. Yeah, so I'll just run you through a few case studies of the work we've done. The first one is we did it for a commercial bank, and the challenge they were trying to solve was primarily they didn't have a single view of the data that they have, and it was very, very critical to create a single view across the various structured and unstructured data sources they had. And performance was key. So this was primarily for the database the customer care group used to access, and the response times required were very fast to bring in that customer experience. So we leveraged the Elastic platform to create a single data store, which not only provided huge speed and scale, but very importantly, it also provided the requisite analytics to reduce the cost attached. So based on these messages that you keep receiving from banks, so based on the size of the text, etc., there is a cost attached which the bank bears, right? So there was very interesting analytics which was done also in terms of how do you optimize these texts so that there's a decent amount of cost savings also which the bank gathered from this entire engagement which we did. One of the critical pieces, and the difference here is, as you're aware, Elasticsearch is a NoSQL database. The kind of performance and the speed that came in post the implementation was not something which they were possibly being able to do earlier on an RDBMS kind of a scenario, which was the Oracle and PeopleSoft landscape they had. The second, I think, interesting case which I would like to touch upon is a pure IT service management kind of a use case. And this was one of the first and very unique implementations of Elastic for this purpose. So the end customer is one of the largest stock exchange, and they use ServiceNow for the IT service management piece of it. What they were not being able to do is do real-time ingestion of various kinds of service requests, incidents, etc., and then provide actionable insights for their team to work on. So that's where this is something which we did, wherein we actually did the API integration with ServiceNow and ingested huge sets of data on a real-time basis into the Elasticsearch piece and gave insights to their team for almost a real-time anomaly detection and identifying of various anomaly based on the incidents which were happening from a service management perspective. The third case, and these are the separate kind of use cases I'm wanting to touch upon because that's the enormity or the diversity that you can leverage the Elastic platform for, so you grow with it. This is a pure play security analytics use case that we again did for one of the banks, where they were using a competitive SIM, and that's where I think Elastic as a platform has grown over time. They introduced the SIM within their platform itself about 6 to 8 months back, and that's become very popular. And we actually replaced one of the popular SIMs with the Elastic stack because the bank had already invested in Elastic and they could actually leverage it for security analytics as well. And that is, I think, the beauty of the platform, that not only are you doing business analytics, not only are you doing big data analytics, but even when it comes to security, it brings threat intel across your network, devices, routers, database, all of it. And that's where I think there was a huge success that we got at this leading bank, leveraging the Elastic stack itself. And the last use case which I have is, again, I think for one of the largest exchange, and this is the holistic one where it was entirely across the infrastructure of the stock exchange. And when I talk of the diversity or the heterogeneous nature of the stock exchange, It had like 600 plus Linux servers, various kinds of infrastructures, Windows machines, system logs, application logs. And the biggest challenge they were facing is how do I get all of it together, unify it, and have a unified view in terms of analyzing this for simplifying my operational piece. So there was an AI ML piece of it also. So it was an AI operational analytics kind of an engagement we did. And with very huge data sets. I think it was close to 200 to 500 GB ingested every day. And the entire infrastructure monitoring was being done on this Elastic implementation that we did. So this is, I think, what I had as far as the use cases that NSEIT has implemented on Elastic. I hope you all got a sense on the diversity that can be brought in with the platform. It's very critical to have the right, I think, partner to help implement the platform and customize it for your business and use case. But once that's done, I think that's where I think the operational analytics and the observability piece reaches a next level. That's all that I had from my side, Nehal. I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Majumdar. That was a very informative session. I'm sure the participating audience had some key takeaways from this session. There are a few questions that have in fact come up. We'll take them up in the Q&A session from a few minutes from now. It's polling time now, and your thoughts matter a lot to us. So, just get up for the poll that is going to be flashed on the right-hand side of your screens, everyone. There's a poll question 1 that is coming up. The second poll will come up shortly. So poll question 1 that is coming up on the right-hand side of your screens. There you go. So 1 minute allocated to it before we start the panel discussion. I hope all our panelists are all geared up by now for the very energetic session that is about to start from a few minutes, seconds from now for that matter. Right after this poll, we'll have the panel discussion. I hope all of you have kept your questions ready. Once again, please put it in the Q&A box that is at the bottom of your screens, and we'll be taking them up in the Q&A session that is scheduled after the panel. So 20 seconds to go for the poll to end. I hope everybody has casted their polls. I see a lot of responses already. Thank you so much, everyone. Those who have not yet, 10 seconds to go for you to, cast your poll on the right-hand side of your screens. Thank you. We're done with the poll. Thank you so much, everyone who've taken part in this poll. Before we move ahead, I would like to just tell you to know more about NSEIT's offerings and solutions. Please do contact the NSEIT team at sales@nseit.com. I'll be posting this. I'll be posting this ID as well in your chat boxes. Now let's move on to the most awaited knowledge sharing and interaction session, the panel discussion. The discussion is around the topic using analytics to optimize operations for BFSI, and we have some very interesting names here. The session will be moderated by Mr. Vivek Sharma, who's the Senior Domain Specialist at Dun & Bradstreet, India. Thank you, Mr. Sharma, and a very warm welcome to you. With this, I'll introduce to you our panel speakers for the day. Our first panel speaker is Mr. Vipin Jain. He's the Vice President, Commercial Underwriting, Analytics and Automation at Bharti AXA General Insurance. Thank you, Mr. Jain, for joining us. We also have with us Mr. Shashwat Kumar. I would request everyone to please be on mute. Let me introduce everybody, then we will have you all on camera and audio. We also have with us Mr. Shashwat Kumar, Head of Analytics, Aditya Birla Health Insurance Company Limited. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for joining us. Following him is Dr. Suresh Shan, who's the Head Innovation and Future Technologies BITS at Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services Limited. Thank you, Dr. Shan, for joining us. We also have with us Mr. Dilip Majhi, Vice President and Head Data Enterprise Management at Axis Bank. Thank you, Mr. Majhi, for joining us. Following him is Mr. Lawrence Crowther, Senior Director, Solutions Architecture, Elastic. Thank you, Mr. Crowther, for joining us. And our final panelist is Mr. Satish Kashyap, who's the Chief Operating Officer at NSEIT. Thank you, Mr. Kashyap, for joining us. With this, let us begin the panel discussion. I would request everyone to please be on video and please unmute yourself when you have to respond. Please be on mute till then before. Thank you so much. Over to you, Mr. Sharma.
Thank you, Nehal. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this panel discussion. We had two very nice presentations, one from Mr. Arpan and second from Mr. Ravindra. Now it's time to discuss some interesting questions. I'm sure many in the delegates are also looking forward to in terms of the response to those questions. So I will start by asking the most obvious one, and I will start with Mr. Vipin and like to get his perspective here. Mr. Vipin, if you can help us understand how can BFSI sector in India excel by designing and building an efficient observable system? Your views, Mr. Vipin.
Hi, thank you. It is not only the requirement to excel, it is the requirement to first meet the very critical and regulatory requirement that we understand the sector is very, very highly regulated, whether it is banking and financial service or insurance. I speak for insurance services. Each and every step of the proposal or any policy or any claim has to be properly recorded and reported to the regulator. In the whole journey of a proposal, if it is identified that the regulatory requirement and the regulatory checks are not met, the whole organization will run pillar to post to identify where the error occurred, what system did not work properly, where the log record to be checked. And to meet this basic requirement, it is very critical to have an observable system. Moving across, dealing with legacy systems and many peripheral systems, it is the desire, it is the need of the hour that the complete integration, the complete observable system is there to manage and to understand between these multiple systems how the overall business and the proposal and the system operations are being efficient or being lethargic due to lag in the overall integration. The biggest challenge the industry is facing today is the disruptors, and that is a good challenge. We should accept it gracefully. Organizations are coming across with innovative concepts, absolute end-to-end digital integrated solutions and systems against the companies which are public sector companies and age-old companies and the companies which are having 20 years of journey in the insurance industry and are still using legacy systems. And the final thing, the regulatory sandbox. As many of you might be aware, the insurance industry is now experimenting with the regulatory sandbox, and many amazing innovative solutions like parametric insurance, everyday insurance. A rider can take an insurance on a daily basis, or you can take an insurance every time you take a ride. The amount, the number of transactions which used to be once in a 15-year in a life insurance journey or once in every year in a general insurance journey is going to be every day. With these kind of volumes and data sets coming across on the shores of insurance industries, it has to be absolutely a requirement, and any organization which will have observable systems and solutions will be excelling in times to come. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for your views. If I could understand you right, you have emphasized on the compliance aspect of it, overcoming challenges of legacy system and ensuring that innovative products are introduced. Is my understanding correct? Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for highlighting all those three aspects. Now let me bring Mr. Satish into this discussion and get his views on the same question. Mr. Satish, I hope you heard my question, and if you can help us get some more perspective here.
Sure. See, the structure of the BFSI sector has gone in for significant change. If you hear recently, RTGS as a setup which is used for payment has become a 24/7 operation. At the other end, people want to renew their insurance policy at any time and want to use the services of UPI or NPCI's payment gateway at every point in time. And today, while trading on a stock exchange or trading through a broker, there are clients who want sub-second response. So what we are coming to is an era of, whether it be Uber rides or whether it be financial services, everyone wants to be able to get a service as and when they demand, and they want near real-time performance on every one of these services. So with fintechs on the other side standing to take away your customers, you have no choice but to be able to respond to this need. So let's take payments, for example. Can you look at a problem statement and if a customer comes back or your sales team comes back and says, we've had lower renewals last month, you need to be able to backtrack to saying whether the problem is because of the payment system that you've got, the payment gateways that you are interacting with, or within those payment gateways, one particular transaction type which is dependent on one bank or one subsystem. Now, this is essential today to problem solve in an era when everything is being offered as a service, whether it's the infrastructure, whether it's any other piece. So therefore, observability, the ability to identify the problem and fix it within a quick time has become a necessity within the BFSI sector, I would say, yeah. On top of what is added.
Okay, so you are saying data is a game changer, and somehow you can use that better here and provide real value add to the customers. Is that right to understand your perspective?
Yeah, and customers' demands are becoming extremely.
Yeah, I understand. Even I am a very demanding customer, so thanks for having that. Anyway, I move forward and I bring I move to the next question, which is equally interesting. And I would like to get the perspective first from Mr. Lawrence. When I think about observability, I often confuse it with monitoring. How can it be different from monitoring? So can you help us understand, what are the key differences which are there between these two concepts, observability as well as monitoring?
Yeah, thanks, Vivek. And I think we saw evidence of that here in the sessions prior. The terms observability and monitoring were used sort of interchangeably. But, what actually is the difference? I think there is a big difference, and it's very important for the BFSI industry, I think, because I think we need to get smarter around how we observe particularly our production systems. So I think monitoring to me is sort of a subset of observability. It really focuses on collecting the sort of basic metrics and the health of various services that you deploy. But that's really not enough. Observability adds in logging analytics, application traces, transactional performance, so you can see where the bottlenecks are. Things like machine learning, so you can do more of the AI ops, automate a lot of the anomaly detection that otherwise may have gone unnoticed. And speaking to the previous comments, we definitely need that. When there's more and more of these services out there, we need to automate more, and you're going to get that through machine learning. I think the other aspect of observability is the sort of user experience of the tool itself, right? If you imagine you're troubleshooting a problem in production and your internet banking is down, every minute is costing thousands, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. And so the quicker you can get it back up, the better. So having a reliable search platform to find sort of the needle in the haystack and give you those relevant results is paramount, I think, for any observability solution. And also, Ravi talked about this as well, but combining the different data sources like logs, metrics, and APM in the same platform actually reduces the complexity. Allows you to do more or less, but I think more importantly, allows you to correlate different pieces of information together. Because sometimes when there's a issue in production, you don't know exactly where it is in the system, but having that sort of end-to-end visibility through an observability platform will give you that. I think finally on the machine learning piece, you want the system to be proactive and tell you things like, oh, you're going to run out of capacity on this date, so you can do forecasting. Whereas monitoring is a bit more static and reactive in that sense, more looking into the past. But observability is going to sort of help you along the way and automate a lot of the things for you. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you for that. In layman's term, which one will you put closer to one-stop solution out of the two?
Observability.
Okay, thank you for that. Thanks for clarifying. I just wanted to have your thought on that. Now I will move. Now I would like to quickly move on the same question and like to get perspective from Dr. Suresh. If you can help us get some more insights into these two concepts and the difference between the two.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks for this opportunity to be with you all today. And it's a great topic. And the question, especially, let us see the functional part of it. Then we can go to that exactly what is the technical requirements on that. It's more to do with the evolution of the NBFC sector, especially NBFC sector. Till today, we don't have a grand application, an ERP which works for especially for the NBFCs. That's where the real struggle starts with that. Further changes in the NBFC market and the capacity and the structure. When we do, one side we have flexibility, on the other side we have enough shifts in NBFC business models. And try to create as much as trends. When you go closer to using the technology in terms of trends, in the NBFC performance, we try to bring out as much as stability in the NBFC sector. So when you're trying to use the resilience on the risk taking, especially comes to rural India, and bring out as much as on the market sentiment with the people behavior, belief, with the future NBFC profitability, the system side wide effects are taken care and how we are trying to use it through the functional part of it. So keeping the efficiency and financial intermediation services, provisioning of NBFC lending to real economy in rural India itself is a very challenging and trying to get that with a time factor of adjusting into a business model or a collection model or even trying to create an account spread across the geography because majority of the finance companies knows month end will be huge for them when they try to use it from the functional point of view. So when you try to bring out such images, how to create such dynamic markets and the policy makers to handle such post crisis, a strong NBFC sector has resumed the supply of intermediation service using the technology to address the real economy is a big challenge. Albeit with the changes which is happening and trying to create that balance of activities, we create something called long-term profitability and short-term profitability, which changes the requirements of attention of NBFC and the supervisors, which we call it as the technology, whatever we are saying, how close we are trying to use as a service or trying to define and try to create the signal of risk taking in terms of creating the overcapacity. So creating again the kind of consolidation, again the spread, when you try to bring it out part of the data, how try to prevent and protect in terms of gains part of the NBFC resilience requires ongoing surveillance, security, risk management, and systematic perspective. So adding all those things, how to use a better use and sharing of data are critical to enhance surveillance of system risk when you try to do part of the NBFC. So if you put all these business and functional prospects behind the screens, the technology has to function and what are the maximum controls we bring in or the minimum options which you try to opt and going to keep high availability in the terms which is used to simplicity.
Thank you for providing that perspective. I will move to Mr. Sashwat and request him to help us get some more perspective on this particular question. Mr. Sashwat, if you can share your views.
Sure, Vivek. So I think Lawrence and Suresh has beautifully covered both from a functional aspect as well as technical aspect. I would probably add 2 cents that I have. I had analytics at Aditya Birla Health Insurance, so I will give you a functional analytical view on the same thing. So let's understand from in giving an analogy from analytics. One of the major problems that we face is we collect a lot of data and we don't look at it. And same thing happens in monitoring, and that I think everybody emphasizes on it. It's a silo system where we kind of monitor a lot of data, and since it is not under a single source, combined at one place, we tend to miss out a lot of these factors, which limits the applicability of the collecting so much of data. And the whole idea is that you derive value out of it and use the same for creating the business outcome, which is in our in BFSI scenario mostly. I mean, one is regulatory, and apart from that, speed and uptime is other two factors that's kind of key importance. So I think observability will bring that perspective while monitoring misses on that, and that breaks the silos, brings the one single source of truth, and helps utilize the contemporary tools to derive value and create business outcome. So, That will be all from my side.
Okay, thank you for that. You are trying to emphasize how to use the data that you have collected and not just keep it, right?
Correct.
Is that, yeah. Thank you for that.
Vivek sir, you're on mute.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. I would like to ask Mr. Satish to share his views. Mr. Satish, here is my question for you. How significant are three pillars, logs, metrics, and traces of observability? How can organizations in BFSI sector benefit from unified visibility? Mr. Satish, if you can share your views.
Sure. See, they're the building blocks on top of which observability operates. So, while many people mistake logs as the primary source, it also is. But metrics that are computed and collected on a time series basis, on a frequent basis, form the other fundamental pillar. So you have areas of, you can take any aspect of it. So maybe including the fact that people log into office, log out of office in the olden days, and maybe now onto the internet. A metric could be the computation of the overall amount of email. A trace could be done in terms of identifying the entire process through the day in terms of how many meetings, how many calls. Now, each of these fundamental building blocks coming together to help you finally service the needs of a customer. Whether him trying to say that, I was not able to conclude a transaction and you are able to use these logs and metrics and trace to the point of what caused the problem is going to be critical, and it's going to be the building block. Today, everything has moved away from the branch, and to a great extent, people are trying to now revisit every element of office space and retail space itself within the BFSI sector. We are looking at apps being the complete service point. So from the point in time that a person opens the app and starts filling out that application form for maybe a commercial loan, to doing all the validation, going through this entire process and being able to observe a conclusion to the transaction is critical, is the way by which in the COVID era and going forward, going to be the way by which we drive every growth aspect. So technology's key driver is going to be this information that we take out from all of these pieces. Yeah.
Thank you for that. On the same question, I'd like to hear from Mr. Dilip, his views.
Yeah, I'm not sure my video is working, but am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. So here is my view. Essentially, I have a big data problem, right? So I have entered big data problem where I'm getting so much volume of data from many source systems, right? And I have a lot of source systems as well. Similarly, I have data platforms, right? I have to take the data from all of the source systems, right, and push into my big data and do a lot of things, right? So I have very high volume of data, right? Now, essentially, all the source systems, they generate a huge volume of logs, right? And I don't know the data is coming, it is landing in the right place or not. And I'm taking so many data from various systems, right? And I'm putting into one system. So I'm not sure I'm doing something wrong with other people or not, right? So that means my big data lake, it should give the kind of analysis comfort with respect to security that I should not touch others' data, right? Even if all the data are in one place, right? That's one aspect. Then another aspect, the logs being generated from all the source systems and the pushing it there, right? How will you ensure there is one view I'm having, right? So at this moment, it's very, very tough. Even I am having, deploy, a lot of tools in the entire enterprise big data systems or data warehouse systems and all, right? Where so many systems are being, connected. It's very tough to get one single view, right? So that's the problem coming. You need to have strong metrics as well as the traceability. Okay, what is all going on the real time, right? So now you think of, I'm doing some transaction from my mobile banks, right? And I did some transaction, but I did not get OTP. Okay, SMS doesn't come to me, right? What will do, right? You will call somebody, right? He has to, take your logs quickly and respond it, right? If not, what will happen? You will solve, hey, my 1 crore or 10 lakhs money has gone somewhere. I am not getting OTP or something happened, right? And in the industry, if you look at it, there is a lot of frauds and all. So that means getting from source system data and acting those logs on those set of data and promptly responding to somebody, we need definitely kind of extremely developed and agile driven kind of toolings who should help us to do that, right? So today if you look at the app dynamics, so many tools. I mean what Ravindra mentioned, right? There are a lot of tools, at least 5 to 6 tools I've seen organization as 22 years in the BFSI world. People use more than 4 or 5 tools for same thing, and it doesn't give a lot of sense, right? So that means we should have one picture view, and that's what APM provides. So when you have a lot of a microservice that doesn't work, right, and one microservice fall down, it doesn't work properly. Definitely another what do you call microservice should get up and it should take it up, right? So that's where these logs, APMs and all helps. Yeah? That's what my view.
Okay, thank you. The same question I would like to now hear from Mr. Lawrence, his views.
Thank you, Vivek. Yeah, I think what Dilip was articulating is what we refer to as tool sprawl, which is where I want to take this question. I think, and it's only getting worse. And I think this is quite relevant to BFSI, as we talked about before. The disruptors coming, and as the large banks, we need to be more agile, more nimble. Okay, and if we have so much complexity or so much technical debt in our operations, where we have 5, 7, 10, sometimes 15 different tools to do the same job, we're not going to achieve that. So my advice would be trying to consolidate where you can. We speak to customers regularly who have lots of these different tools, best of breed tools, I would say, for logging, a couple for metrics, couple for APM, and maybe some specialized applications to observe things like Kubernetes or more exotic type infrastructures, let's say. But you can imagine the cost associated with this too, right? Paying different licenses to vendors, and you're not getting the true benefits of these different data sources combined in a single platform, as we talked about before. And I think the other aspect I want to focus on here is how vendors are providing these solutions to you. So the cost may become, quite prohibitive in some cases because of the way vendors actually charge for these tools. Like in some cases, APM vendors will charge per agent. Other logging vendors will charge you how much data they ingest, or security vendors will charge you per endpoint. This is sort of counterintuitive to your business because you have to pay that sort of upfront tax. But what you want is a licensing or a costing structure that actually grows with your business. In other words, pay as you go. I've seen situations where customers are sort of swayed by the constraints of their licensing. We call this budget-driven architecture, which is no good for anyone because you're actually probably leaving a lot of data on the floor, right, that you need to do the critical analysis. So you want a system that actually allows you to take all the data you want and then really only pay for the data you store. So that's one thing I wanted to say. The other significant point would be around correlating data together across the pillars. And I'd actually add another pillar as well, which is business data. I think it's important not only to have the sort of non-functional technical metrics and KPIs around logs, APM, and metrics, but some of those business KPIs as well, because then it's going to give you a true appreciation of how end users are having an effect on your entire system, where you can trace transactions through the stack. Elastic supports something called RUM, which is real user monitoring. So that way you get to see if there's any poor performance or errors in the system, what is the actual impact to users, which I think is very important because as we were talking about before with disruptors, if your online banking or your insurance portal is clunky and gives errors, they're going to go to the next competitor for sure. So you need to think about that sort of user experience. And it starts actually with your observability posture internally. to actually achieve that. So that's my perspective. I'll pass it back. Thank you.
So if I have understood you right, it has got a lot of utility also in terms of issue resolution or problem resolution from the perspective of an organization. Is that right way to look at it?
Not exactly. We're not. Elastic is not a ticketing tool as such. We
No,
integrated.
I'm not talking about Elastic per se. I'm just adding on to where you ended. You said that you need the business data and you need to use it to check the details. So I'm talking in that context.
Yeah, my comment around business data is allowing you to overlay key business metrics like revenue being generated right now, how many products are being sold, with the actual technical metrics around, how much memory, how much CPU, how much disk, how many transactions are happening right now to actually achieve those business metrics.
Okay. Thank you for that. If you can also help us understand the importance of service level indicators, service level objectives, and service level agreements in BFSI sector.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. If you're not familiar with those terms, let me just quickly define them. So SLIs are the metrics used to measure the service provided, i.e., availability, latency, transactions per second, etc. The SLOs, on the other hand, the service level objectives, are target levels for those SLIs, usually expressed as a percentage. Like, do I have 99% availability right now, for example? And then the SLAs, on the other hand, are contractual agreements that outline the level of service that users can expect. So, if you set promises to your users and you do not meet them, there may be sort of very negative consequences of that, right? So that's sort of outlining what those are. A lot of this thinking came out of Google, actually. They published a book called Google SRE for site reliability engineering. A lot of the practices they have at Google, they've made it publicly available, and a lot of banking and financial services companies are actually adopting that to exactly what I was talking about before, actually, in the last question, which is to become more agile, nimble, and respond to these problems, quicker. So I think the service level objectives are rooted in the idea that service reliability and user experience or user happiness, if you will, go hand in hand, right? And to that end, I think it's time actually for BFSI companies to build amazing user experiences, just like people expect from Ubers, Airbnbs, etc. They want the same sort of experiences, or they will go to your competitor. Gone are the days of having a clunky sort of UI and getting an error or clicking the submit button and nothing happens, right? That's a terrible user experience. So that, I think everyone is trying to sort of get to the Uber-like experiences, but you need that by having these good sort of SRE practices internally. Yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, thanks for elaborating that. That was really helpful. Thank you for that.
Sir, you've again gone on mute.
I will move on to the next question, and I would like to ask Mr. Vipin to help us understand this. Mr. Vipin, according to you, what is the importance of actionable information and the right amount of information? Mr. Vipin, if you could hear me.
Yeah. Am I audible? Yeah. So I will just give you a context with respect to the insurance industry. The two critical part of the insurance industry, which is the underwriting and sales, and obviously the third one being claims, will have an absolute diverse information requirement. But if you look at the systems or current infrastructure of the entities, you will observe that complete information is shared with all of them, and that is wherein I would say that there's a big gap. Now, if I give you an example, from the sales perspective, the information which is required to take an immediate action is how is the user being serviced on a very smooth UI and UX? What is the response time of the front-end application? What is the payment processing time lag? and what are the overall process time taken to complete a proposal. These are the premise of sales user requirement, and that is the information on the basis of sales user can take a call. From the underwriting perspective, talking about, there is plethora of integration which is happening. There's a geotagging happening for a proposal to understand which location this risk is coming from. For that location, the wind score, the earthquake score, or the flood score is being collated from different APIs and different web services. We are talking about the image analytics and the images being deployed, or the videos of risk inspection surveys are being deployed. Now, all these parameters and their analytical output in terms of what is the decision to be taken to underwrite a risk, either into a pre-approved insurance mode or to an underwriting approach driven, which is the referral to the underwriter mode, how this information is going to be taken ahead. Now, this is the information which is, you have to select what is the information to be actioned immediately and what is the precise information needed for underwriter to take a call. Leaving aside the on-the-go journey of a proposal or a on-the-go proposal, the secondary data set, the analysis of the information, I would say that which we have just talked about is huge amount of data without any dialogue. That is the probably I could say it's a parallel in the industry that we have huge amount of it's a syndrome that we have immense amount of data and publish it across many people, verticals, leaders, and everyone, but there's no dialogues happening between the analysis. Now, the cohesive system, the overall system with the monitoring and the analysis if it provides the information which can be used to take actions and is precise, the overall system efficiency can be increased and the overall cost, which is the very important concern to the industry today, can be reduced. That's all from my side.
Thank you for that. Thanks for sharing that extensively. Mr. Sashwat, if you can share your views on the same question, what is the importance of actionable information and the right amount of information?
Sure, Vivek. So, adding to what Vipin was saying, information serves a particular purpose in any domain, especially in the business domain. It has a purpose of enabling decisions. So, if we have good to know information without actionables, the purpose doesn't get served. That's part one of actionable information. Now let's understand what are the attributes of some of the actionable information. A couple of what I remember is it should be contextual, it should be relevant, it should be aligned to a goal, it should be specific, novelty would be a good to have, and it should be clear, right, from actionable perspective. Now, the importance of right amount of information is, underpin it. So let's understand it from this perspective. If we have to take a decision, abundance of data is a hindrance, or lack of data is also an hindrance. For example, in a particular situation, if the context is not given, the same data can refer to multiple outcomes. Or when for a particular set of decision, whether it is at an underwriting stage or at a claim stage, if there is a lack of data, let's say I don't have a hospital data, or I don't have a the disease data, or I don't have a any sort of data that I'm looking at, and in the world of APIs, both the availability as well as the availability of sources that we can bring in as an information is quite high. So that kind of makes the case that it's not just the actionable information that enables the decision, but the right amount of information would help us do it quickly and within the right frame of time, so that the outcomes are met. So that's what I would like to add.
Yeah, thank you. This takes me to my last question for the day, and I would like to start from Dr. Suresh first. Dr. Suresh, according to you, how can organizations ensure security of data which is multi-purpose and used in multiple systems? I hope you could hear me.
Yeah, I'm able to hear you. I'm audible now?
Yeah. You are. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. the concept, let us understand the digital transformation, what's going on today is we are moving from corporate digital towards customer digital, where every individual customer is going to be treated as corporate, and every individual is getting as much as more informative, which is going beyond the limits and trying to take it out. That's why the data is very abundant, insights and actionable information are hard to find, and trying to connect so that we can. In good olden days, in a banking scenario, for me to identify a good customer, bad customer, I'll go by his bank statement and find the check bounces, and I can say he's a good or a bad customer. But today we have enough options. I can go to a social and try to create as much as of information about the customer and try to even treat him further better, even though his bank status is not good, but his social status is very good. That's a compulsion now for us, seeing from the functional point. But taking it from the technical point, like we try to create as much as maximizing the value of assets. That's where the things are coming. Again, good olden days, you can go just do a fund, give a loan, come back. Now today we are creating something called earn to pay model. We want to participate and engage with the customer for his lifelong and trying to create an engagement with the customer, which is part of the digital. That's where the actual system is getting compulsion and trying to create as much as on the assets and on the customer a strategy and a risk analysis, and trying to condition as much as based on the reliability with the reality of information, centered maintenance process and practices, part of the business, customer and the technology. So when you try to bring out an mobile and IoT inception platform, trying to use an augmented reality and a virtual reality capabilities today, that's what the privacy of information and the complexity of predictive analysis, including statistical modeling or neural networks, what are you call current technology, including machine language, as part of it. But when it comes to banking and financial, we try to use as much as the life cycle of the customer in terms of the business and the information on the dynamic market settings, and trying to use that IoT point where which enables us to be more specific in terms of retrieving the information and trying to build as much as the collaborative scenario with the customer to try to. So let us plan for, instead of corporate digital, now let us address customer digital also, where every individual customer is going to be like corporate. That's where the complexity comes. And technology, you can see the all jargons, whatever used today, it's revolving maximum on the information about the customer. That's what the actual success point. And reach and speed is going to change the world in financial services. So how fast we go and how much information we know about the customer is going to change the business across all the industry.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's really extensive and has helped us understand this. Now, let me ask Mr. Dilip his views on this question, which is how can organizations ensure security of the data, which is multi-purpose and used in multiple systems? Mr. Dilip?
Yeah, so somebody had mute me. So could you please? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Okay. So thanks, Vijay. 1 minute. I'm fine, right? Am I audible?
Yes, you are. You were audible earlier also. Please go ahead.
Sorry, there is some problem.
Mr. Dilip, if you could hear me?
Hello.
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 Yeah, I can hear you, Mr. Dilip. You can answer the question.
Yeah. So essentially, if you look at here, the critical problem at this moment in the banking system, how to manage your PI data, SPDI data, right? All those governance data. So we have a lot of data, in the ecosystems, right? So, and we also provide those data to the various people, right? So we have a lot of vendors, right? They are also works for the banks, right? For the financial institute and all, right? They also access the, lot of, PI data, Aadhaar card, then other stuff and all. Similarly, a lot of credit card transaction happens, and at this moment, if you look at, there is almost, every year over the 90,000 crores of fraud activities happen. So it is very, very critical for the, infosec people, for the organization, for the security front, right? Now, we are capturing all set of data, right? How you ensure that you are applying those kind of reduction process, those kind of masking, and those kind of TLS and all, which will ensure your entire encryption part, everything is being taken care in the backend system, so that you can work very healthy and happy mode as a consumer, right? So it's a very, very powerful thing for the InfoSec security people, and that's why every month time we go and present to the RBI and all how the InfoSec activities is being taken care, being executed and all, right? So if you look at the database sites, technology side and all, there is a lot of hijacking stuff happens, right? People captures your SMS, people captures your OTP, people captures whenever any credit card transaction happens, anything happens, right? People captures it and they do those kind of frauds. So how will you prevent all those, right? Now coming into the the cloud world where you have to carry entire in-premise stuff because of so many things, because of you want to build this scalable architecture, you want to build quicker time frame, right? You want to build MTTR is zero, what Ravi has mentioned, right? So probably cloud is the best way, right? But problem is how to ship so much set of data, which is having PIA, SPDA and other set of data over there, right? How you monitor everything is being taken care. So InfoSec and security is very, very critical parameter, right? That's one aspect. Then another aspect, the governance and how to manage the entire data as part of the governance, cataloging and and giving the right view of your entire data management systems, right? So that essentially pops to any CIO, CTO, then a CISO people first. What are the best technology? What are the best architecture? What is the right thing to implement this kind of info related challenge? So if you today when we went to the Azure probably last time there is more than 3,800 controls being published by the RBI if you want to build something in the Azure. Similarly, AWS and GCP. So there is so much, concerns by the, RBI because people may do a lot of fraud behind the scene, how to control it, right? So that's where, the security, info security and all is very, very key aspect, not only with the technology side as well as the business, as well as the functional side. And we all aspire that we ensure, all this technology aspect is being taken care, which will give scalable as well as, the right kind of what you call the control with all parameters so that we can minimize the kind of risks which any BFSI organization is being in the industry. Yeah, that's measure. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your views, and thanks to all panel speakers for sharing their views today on observability, monitoring, pillars of it, and taking us through some of the interesting aspects of the security features as well. It was really interesting to have discussion with all of you. A sincere thanks to all of you. This brings me to now to close the panel discussion session, and I will hand it over to Nehal before we start question and answers from the
Sure,
audience.
thank you so much, sir. We just have the next poll question that is coming up on the right-hand side. So I'll request the host to please flash the poll questions on the right-hand side. As soon as we start the poll questions, sir, you can go ahead with the Q&A, please. Yeah. So I'll request everyone to please cast your polls on the right-hand side of your screens. There are two questions that are flashed. Vivek sir, with this we can start the Q&A as well, because in the interest of time we need to take up the questions, please.
Okay, so I will request Mr. Lawrence to help us understand some of the concepts which have been asked, or some of the questions which have been asked by the delegates. So I will be just placing the first question now. Mr. Lawrence, if you could hear me, I would like to ask you what is a typical time to market to implement platform in an organization? What are the input factors the speed to market is dependent on?
Yeah, I believe that was answered in the Q&A already, but as Ravi pointed out in the Q&A window, it really depends on your environment. Like, for example, if you were to go cloud native and deploy the observability platform in the cloud from the start, obviously you're going to dramatically increase the speed to market, right? So I think there's a lot of factors there around which type of environment. Even if you went on-prem, you still have choices there as well. If you want to have a sort of fully automated provisioning platform, which allows you to sort of automate the provisioning of clusters, for your observability platform, then there's probably a bit of an upfront cost there to sort of set that up. But obviously, you're going to get the longer tail benefit of that by being able to use the APIs and programmatically environments, and can integrate that into your CI/CD pipelines. So I think there's a lot of factors there, but typically we see customers setting up Elastic within a week, really. I mean, you can go onto our cloud. As Ravi mentioned, we have AWS just launched for Elastic in our cloud service in Mumbai. You can go to cloud.elastic.co and actually sign up for a trial and actually see how easy it is to set up the environment and get going in a few minutes with some sample data.
Okay. So there's another question, which is many times regulatory requirements are unclear. Can you throw more light on them?
I think the question is referring to how does this platform solve for those regulatory requirements. So
yes,
we actually have one customer, Postbank, which is the retail bank of Deutsche Bank. They're using Elastic to make sure that they're GDPR compliant, looking for anomalies in the data, for example, around personal information. So they're using Elastic to sort of filter that out and to make sure that they're compliant. That's one use case that can help. But Elastic has other certifications as well, SOC 2, HIPAA compliant for the health industry, and we work with a lot of partners to make sure that there's a high level of compliance, especially in the banking sector.
Okay. The third one is whether this solution should be hosted in our DC. How different systems shall be connected? That
sort of goes to the first question. You can host it in your DC, but obviously the preference would be cloud, just for that time to market piece. There are a couple of options if you want to host it in your DC. We have something called Elastic Cloud Enterprise, which is sort of a private cloud. It's the same software we actually run on our public cloud, but you can install it in your own data center. This gives you a higher level automation and orchestration to allow you to spin up different clusters with ease and have sort of a multi-tenant environment shared across different departments, if you will, within your business. A lot of people use the sort of COE or centralized logging, centralized observability platform with that product because they're managing hundreds and hundreds of clusters for different parts of the business. The other option too is if you're a Kubernetes shop, we have something called ECK. You can actually deploy Elastic directly on Kubernetes and get obviously all the benefits of Kubernetes as well. Elastic can also monitor Kubernetes. So once you deploy it, you can monitor itself and all the applications running on Kubernetes as well, which may be of interest. Of course, if you don't want all that and you want to roll it yourself, you can just download the standalone binaries, but you're on your own. You have to write your own scripts to sort of automate it. So I highly recommend more of our sort of advanced automation systems, particularly the cloud, to make it easier for you.
And one final question, are there any ROI benefits realized due to moving to Elastic observability that can be shared?
Yeah, I think probably the top one is around cost. We see a lot of customers migrating from platforms like Splunk, for example, to reduce license costs. And actually the added benefit you get there is you can actually get insight to more data. So a lot of customers who use Splunk, I mentioned this before, are sort of constrained by the budget. Like they can't actually ingest a lot of the data sources they want to. But with Elastic, there is no restriction because how the licensing is set up. So you can actually get more insights and actionable data in your system. There's a customer in Australia. I can't mention the name because it's not a public reference, but it's a large financial services company in Australia, which is a subsidiary of a very large global bank. They migrated from Splunk to Elastic, and they saved $500K a year actually while doing it, and increasing the insights that they got. Some other reasons why they went to Elastic, because they love the open source model, made it easy for interoperability with their existing systems. And they also love the speed of Elastic. We talk about the search at the speed of thought. If you think about an analyst sort of trying to find that needle in the haystack and trying to get the system back up, speed is of the utmost importance to get it done quickly, obviously. The second ROI I would probably talk about is MTTR, which has sort of been mentioned a couple of times, mean time to repair. And we help customers sort of drive that to zero, basically reducing downtime, but also reducing outage time as well. We have a lot of case studies, a lot of blog posts on that. Perhaps we can follow up with after this. And the third one, as we just talked about, actually, is around compliance. So I mentioned that that bank in Europe, Deutsche Bank, that is using Elastic for GDPR compliance.
Okay, thank you. And while I said that was the last one, actually, I've ended up getting one more, so I will help you to answer that also. Request you to help understand us that question as well. I will read it for you. Google Cloud or SAP-owned HEC Cloud. What are the pros and cons for each? We are a telecom public sector undertaking having our own fiber across India. Currently, we have an in-house hosting of SAP at one of our data centers. So this is what has come as a question.
I don't think that's specific to Elastic. Maybe one of the other panelists could clarify.
Okay, may I request Mr. Rohan to help us answer this?
Will that be Mr. Ravi? Mr. Sharma?
Yes, sorry.
No problem. Ravi, would you want to take that up or any other?
Will you be able to repeat the question, because it was, I don't want to miss any part of the question.
So. Yeah, I'm repeating it. Google Cloud or SAP owned HEC Cloud, what are the pros and cons of each? And then there is a statement added, which is we are a PSU, telecom PSU having our own fiber across India. Currently, we have an in-house hosting of SAP at one of our data centers.
I mean, as Lawrence mentioned, it's kind of shouldn't be asking the Elastic team for these kind of questions. I am not even sure NSEIT team would be able to help on this, but this is more specific to how they want to maintain their infrastructure. Elastic can help you in monitoring this kind of an infrastructure, but unfortunately we won't be able to help you on choosing what.
Sure. I got the point. No problem. Thank you for that. With this, I will hand it over back to Nehal.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma, for summarizing the entire panel discussion and duly helping in answering the relevant questions raised by our attendees. Truly valuable takeaways, gentlemen. Thank you so much to our speakers, our esteemed speakers in the panel and opening. Truly valuable takeaways, gentlemen. A very informative and a very engaging session. Before I move further, let me just tell you, in case you want to know more about NSEIT's offerings and solutions, please do contact NSEIT team at this email address that is flashed on your screens, which is sales@nsceit.com. With this, we bring today's virtual conference to a close. Today's session wouldn't have been a success without the active participation of all our esteemed speakers, panelists, and delegates. I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking out time and being a part of this virtual conference today. A special thanks to Elastic and NSEIT for the support in this initiative, without whom this conference wouldn't have been possible. A special thanks to all our speakers and all our panelists once again, and our moderator. Thank you so much for a very power-packed and a very engaging session today. Thank you so much, Lawrence, for joining us from Australia and making room for this one. Thank you once again, ladies and gentlemen. Take care and stay safe.
Thanks all. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you.